John Gertz, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, John, you usually work in film, but you have an interest in SETI and have been an advocate for it for a long time. And you have an interesting view in that you don't seem to think that we should look so much for distant radio signals, but maybe radio signals from relays, much closer, a galactic internet of sort, where these nodes transmit radio in between each other as opposed to, as how aliens communicate, as opposed to big beacons and things that were envisioned in the past, like Cocconi and Morrison. Lay out the idea of a relay system.
Well, I try to look at the whole problem of SETI from ET's perspective. What would make a strategic sense for them if they intend actually to communicate or to learn about us? And it's my considered opinion that the old paradigm that they're going to transmit signals from their star system to our star system is broken. It was never, it would not be the way that ET would choose to communicate. I can tell you the reasons for that, but since your question is about why would they use probes, what I call probes, or you might think of as satellites or robotic AI machines that they've launched into our own solar system, is several fold. First of all, a probe can actually conduct science in the absence of any form of communication between us. A probe, once entering our solar system, determined that we are in fact a biologically active planet. They could have determined that to 3.5 billion years ago. Then having determined that there's actual biology on planet Earth, they might have sent probes at a pace of, let's say, 100 million years, once every 100 million years, to check in on us. And after a while, after several billion years, they would have determined by the oxygen in our atmosphere that now we may be a multicellular planet, which then raises the stakes a bit, and they may have then decide to send probes to fly by, let's say, on the basis of every 10 million years or thereabouts. And eventually they may decide that there is an opportunity that the megafauna that they may have detected may actually evolve into a technological civilization. And at that point, maybe they would have planted a permanent probe to orbit the sun, to orbit the moon, to orbit anywhere within our solar system. Now that in the meantime, that probe or series of probes can send actual data back to the home base, learning something about our planet. Once the probes have determined that we're actually a technological society, by for example, even before they would have measured the leakage of our electromagnetic signature after the advent of commercial radio, perhaps, or commercial television, even before that, they might have seen our cities being built, pyramids, agriculture, and so forth and so on. But having then now, once they are able to monitor our electromagnetic leakage, then they can actually learn something of our culture or our language, presumably not from radio waves in the 20s or 30s, but from television in the 50s and thereafter. They would have been able to learn quite a bit about us. They could have learned our language from Sesame Street. They could have learned our math from Khan Academy. They could have basically learned most of the rest from YouTube. And if and when they ever decide to communicate with us, it would be on the basis of actually having decoded us and actually have learned something about us. So they may actually respond to us in the Queen's very old English, or maybe in Chinese, or maybe in Urdu. It's hard. We're not committing them to any particular language. The probe also solves many, many other problems vis-a-vis the paradigm of transmitting from their home planet electromagnetic signals, be it radio or lasers. For one thing, the cost of the information that they're conveying to us, if they're actually planning to convey information, is much cheaper on a bit-by-bit basis. They can simply inscribe whatever they want to tell us on their version of a hard drive. And however you measure it, getting that hard drive physically to our solar system is a vastly cheaper enterprise than transmitting that same information from interstellar distances over deep time, because they would have had to have been transmitting that information, perhaps for several billion years. they would have no a priori knowledge without, in the absence of having sent probes, of exactly when we had turned technological. They presumably would have known that Earth is only 4.55 billion years old. Fair enough, but they wouldn't necessarily know when we had turned technological. Maybe their models of might say, well, it takes 4.5 billion years plus or minus a billion years to go from life to technology, but they wouldn't have had an exact notion. So to transmit over deep time persistently would be very expensive and time-consuming operation vis-a-vis sending probes. It's also much less dangerous to send probes. The galaxy may contain some very bad actors. We obviously have no idea at this point, but ET that might be trying to communicate with us might have a very good idea. When they transmit from their home star system, they, by definition, reveal their location. When they send probes, that probe may not be empowered and may not even know the address of the progenitor civilization.